Okay, I'll be coming around and helping you. Excellent. You're all doing great. Now you can tighten up your strap to draw your heels in closer to your pelvis. And that may feel really good. Just let your knees fall outside.
I don't know if there's a strap.
Okay. If you don't have a strap, just get in butterfly.
Okay.
And just upload it. Okay, this strap, what it does, it eliminates the need to use any muscles to keep your feet together or to let your knees fall out. So from here, what I suggest also is that you just stretch your arms out to the side and then just let your elbows fall forward. Starting a few minutes early puts me in overtime now. I've heard that. This one's a little base to your shoulder. So, maybe tighten up your strap a little bit. Wait. Yes, sir. Sure. Okay, everybody's pretty much in position. So take a deep cleansing breath into your nose. Exhale it out through your mouth. Take another deep cleansing breath into your nose. Out through your nose. And let your breath come to its own natural rhythm in and out through your nose. Just let your arms fall to the side. Maybe you can feel gravity tugging at the tops of your shoulders, the front of your shoulders. Feel gravity urging your knees down towards the mat. This is a groin opener. Stretching your groins and your other adductors. And this is a position that if you don't have the strap, it becomes more challenging because your legs, you can't put as much pressure on without engaging your muscles. Only you know how much tension there is on your hips and your groins. But I encourage you to, when it becomes easy and you can't feel anything, to
tense up. Draw the strap in a little bit tighter. Take a deep breath and begin again. And what that will do, that will get into your muscles a little bit deeper and allow more sensation to get to your fascia. Your edge and yin moves with how much your muscles soften. The practice is learning how your body softens and how to allow your body to soften. If you find your groins are still engaged, maybe just run your hands right across your hip crease, where your psoas and iliacus cross over your pelvis. See how that feels. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, try to move your knees back up, vertical. Maybe you can roll onto your side and remove some of those blocks or one of those blocks and free up your feet. Sometimes it's more challenging to get out of this position than into it. And then when you're free, come up to a seated position. Bring your hands behind your hips, bend your knees. Place your footprints on the mat. And this is one of the few times I'll recommend bringing your feet right together and then windshield wiper your knees from one side to the other. And then spread them however far apart you normally do and see what the difference is. And the next time you come to center, pause. The next pose that we're going to go into is here just because of Priscilla today. It's half saddle. So the way that you get into half saddle, you can leave your left leg out straight in front, lean over onto your left hip, bring your right leg behind you, or bring your right heel to the outside of your right hip. So you look something like this. You can do this on a block. You can use a towel to get an extra ½ inch or 1 inch. But maybe you can get that heel outside of that hip. What this does in addition to being a really good quad stretch, you're also rotating your femur inward in your hip socket. If you're pigeon-toed, you don't have to do this ever because your foot will move in towards the center. But from here, bring your hands behind your hips. Lift your chest high. Now, depending on your neck, maybe you just want to, continue looking forward. You can look up if you wish, but tuck your tailbone under. It will tilt your sacrum back, process known as nutting. And then if this is good, or if this is all you want to try, you can stay here. If you'd like a little bit more sensation, and it will be different from what you think, you can come down onto your elbows. And breathe. Now, if this hurts, get out of it right away. Pain has no place in yoga. But this does intensify your quad stretch. And it opens up your hip in a different way than normal. But most importantly, you're manipulating your sacrum in your pelvis. And that's one thing that most humans don't do very much. And then on another inhale, come back up. Allow you to come back over onto that hip. Release your right leg to the front of the mat. Push your heels away, and then rotate your feet. Next time you come to center, pause. The next pose, I was going to go through a quick demonstration before class, but everybody jumped the gun. But it's going to be either deer or swan, which would be facing forward. Or if you have knee issues, you can just roll onto your back. And I'll show you how to do that right now. But the rest of you, don't worry about that. But just roll onto your back, have a block. Bring your feet up by your sit bones and lift up. Bring your sacrum down so that you're supported. Then lift that right leg up. And then cross your right leg over your left thigh like a gentleman sitting. And then you just lift that left knee, reach between your legs, grab onto that left knee, and now you're in reclining swan. For the rest of you, you can get into this by taking your right leg, right ankle, roughly parallel to the front of the mat, and then rolling onto your right hip, bringing your left knee behind the right heel so that your ankles are 90 degrees. That's why some yoga instructors call this 90-90. It's also known as deer. If this works for you, that's great. If you'd rather do a conventional swan, you can bring that left leg all the way towards the back of the mat with your toenails onto the mat and walk that knee back. You're trying to get your right hip down onto the floor. Now, you're not supposed to have any sensation at all in that right knee. If the right knee hurts, you can always bend that right knee a lot, bringing your heel in towards your body center line, down by your groins. And that should relieve that issue. Or you can go over on your back and do the reclining swan. I like to have a couple of blocks available. You can use a block to tuck underneath your right butt cheek if that muscle is still engaged and refuses to soften. You can walk your hands forward, bringing your chest down towards the mat. And be aware of the sensations in your leg as you come forward. Your knee might get twisted. If that's the case, again, just bring that heel closer to your body center line. You can use a block underneath your sternum as you come forward so that you're not on your elbows. Your hands can be straight out in front of you if you wish. It can be out by the side or just resting your elbows on the mat, hopefully with no weight. And just let your head bow forward. Swan targets your glutes and your hip socket. Breathe into wherever you feel the sensations are greatest. You can make modifications on your own by walking your hands one to one side or the other. And if you do, just note where the sensations in your glutes travel. You have three glutes. You have the minimus, which is almost invisible to you. That's the deepest level. It's tied to the inner part of your pelvis. I'm sorry, the outer part of your pelvis, but down low. And then to the top of your femur. The meatiest, and that is not meatiest, like it's not the biggest rib roast around. It's in the middle. And then the maximus is right on the very top outside of the pelvic rim. It starts just about at your spine, but only attached to your pelvis and your femur. These are the muscles that lift your legs. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, bring your hands into the mat. Push the floor away, raising up your chest. Walk your hands back towards your hips. And when you can release that right leg, do so. And you want to lift that up and stretch it out. You can come into table and do some cat cows. As I always say, whenever you get at the table, almost is a requirement to do a cat-cow. But if you'd like to make this into a downward facing dog, just curl your toes under and lift your hips up and back. You can walk out your dog, stretch your hamstrings, your glutes. And then carefully lower your knees back down onto the mat. Coming into table. And from here, take your left hand out to the side, roughly parallel to the floor. And then inhale up and exhale. Thread the needle, the left arm behind the right wrist, way up to the right, bringing your shoulder all the way down to the mat. Cheek. This is a big inward rotation on your shoulder. So if it's too much on your shoulder, just back up, don't go as far. If you'd like a little bit more stretch on that right leg, you can always straighten out that right leg. Come up onto your toes, onto the ball of your right foot. Push that heel away. Get a nice stretch all the way from your heel to your pelvis. Breathe into wherever you feel this the most. If you'd like to do a little bit more with your right arm, maybe come up on spider fingers and walk that arm forward. And that will probably change the position of your head and cheek on the mat, that's okay. But that will open up your right shoulder too. And breathe into that right armpit. As you breathe into that side body, your armpit area, you're opening up your rib cage just a little bit by putting more air down there. Your ribs separate, stretching your intercostal muscles. Begin to deepen your breath. And that right hand back next to your face. Lower that right knee, it's up. And on an inhale, push your right hand into the floor, extract your left arm out and up. Then come back down at the table. Do a few more cat cows. And really exaggerate your cat cows. And the next time you come to center pause, from here, walk your knees towards the back of the mat and your hands towards the front, coming all the way down onto your belly. And then bring your elbows underneath your shoulders. Your palms should be down. Your legs should be somewhat close together, but not necessary. Put your toenails down. Lift your chest high, but look down at the mat in between your hands. That will protect your neck. From here, push your toenails into the mat, lifting up your knees. Isometrically drag your elbows towards your hips. And breathe here. This is the yawn version of Sphinx. We're not holding this very long, but I want you to discover all the muscles that are being engaged here, because those are the same muscles that you're now going to relax. So on your next exhale, soften the muscles behind your knees, and then your feet, by your heels, your quads, and your thighs. Soften your glutes. You may have the sensation that your chest is rising because the rest of your body is falling. Belly engages with the mat. Soften your back. And then allow your head just to drop forward. And move your head a little bit left to right or up and down to make sure that you don't have any stress or tension. Try to figure out exactly where the most sensations are in your spine, in this back bend. And then on your next exhale, release. Cross your arms. Use your forearms as a pillow. Turn your head one direction and bring your right knee up towards your right elbow. Into half frog. On your next inhale, return your right knee back to meet the left. Come back up onto your elbows. Lift your chest high again. Just double check your elbows underneath your shoulders. Maybe if you'd like it a little bit different, a different aspect of this pose, walk your feet all the way out to the edges of your mat. And then push your toenails into the mat again so that you're suspended from your toenails to your pubis, to your elbows, and your hands. Isometrically draw your elbows towards your hips again. And then observing, begin to release those muscles again. See if you can go inside your body and see on the cellular level what is happening. How do those muscles move by each other? How do those muscles soften and transfer the tension into your fascia? Why does it go in that sequence? And then allow your head to fall forward again. And observe your spine and where the tension is. The only parts of your body that should be engaged are your elbows, a little bit of your forearms and your shoulders. Feel how your breath flattens out your belly against the mat. And then on your exhale, fold your arms again. Turn your head the opposite direction. And as you bend that knee, left knee, feel your spine and how the sensations change instantly. Begin to deepen your breath. In your next inhale, bring your left foot back to meet the right. Bring your hands next to your chest. Push the floor away, rise up through table. Spread your knees wide. Bring your toes together and lower back down into child's pose. Tuck your tailbone under, lengthen your spine. Now, child's pose is primarily a spine opener and a bit of a hip opener because of the engagement of the groins. It's also a very light forward fold, which makes it such a good alternative to or counter pose to Sphinx. Begin to deepen your breath. Inhale, come up into table. Do a couple more cat cows. And the next time you come to center pause, stand up on your knees. This is just a way to get into half saddle. So carefully lower your knees, lower your glutes right on top of your feet. Now this is basically full saddle. If you want, you can bring each foot outside your hips, or you can go with just the left half saddle. I find that the half saddle is pretty satisfying and it's a little less intense, but it's up to you. That right leg can be out in front, but get comfortable with where that left knee is. You don't want that left knee to be hurting. You can be up on a block. You can be up on 2 blocks. What happens when you're on 2 blocks is that inward rotation is just a little bit less. And if you think about it long enough, it will become apparent why that's so. But from here, maybe you can walk your hands back. Lift your chest high. Gaze upward, gaze at the horizon. And if you'd like, you can always come down onto your elbows. If we were going to be here longer, I'd suggest that if you want to come all the way down onto your back or onto blocks, that would be fine. I said fine, not fun. Maybe you can feel your quads releasing. Maybe your hand is close enough and you're stable enough that you can just run your hand over your quads, the left quad. And you can actually feel those fibers releasing, giving up their tension. Begin to deepen your breath. Bring your next inhale, rise back up. Come onto your right hip, bring the left leg out in front. With the right, bring your hands behind your hips. You can push your heels away, which feels mighty good. Rock your feet one way or another. You can do windshield wipers if you wish. And the next pose is caterpillar. Now on saddle, you're tilting your sacrum back in your pelvis. And in caterpillar, you're tilting your sacrum forward. So those two poses are probably the best two poses for the health of your sacrum. So if you want to come up onto a block, which gives your hips a little bit more space to operate. From here, as you're sitting up straight, the crown of your head up, just try to push your belly forward. That will tip or lift your chest high. That tips your pelvis forward, which is what you want. And then walk your hands forward, taking your collarbones towards your feet and the crown of your head towards the far wall until it's right for you to pause. Notice where your hands are. If you're pulling on your legs, that's a different class. You can bring your palms facing the ceiling if you wish. You can rest them on top of your shins. The object here is not to get your head on your knees or your shins. It's to get your collarbones to your feet. Toward your feet. Listen carefully. On your next inhale, come up maybe halfway. Maybe you're gazing just beyond your feet. Inhale, bring your shoulder blades, your collarbones even higher, and then come forward again. Maybe you can still move the person behind you and see how much space that gives you. Maybe nothing, maybe a half inch movement in where your head is. And then just relax. To experiment, maybe you want to release your feet that are flexed and the toes pointed towards the ceiling. Maybe you just want them to fall forward. or out to the side. See what that does to your legs. Discover something new in your body today. Allow your head to fall forward, your spine to round. This is a spine lengthener also. You're giving more space between each vertebra. A micro amount of space for each disc. You're stretching your hamstrings. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, bring your hands to the mat and walk your hands back. If you're on a block, carefully remove it. Bring your hands behind your hips. Bend your knees and bring your footprints to the mat. Bring your footprints to the mat either closer together or wider apart than you did before. And then observe how this feels. Does one side feel different than the other? And the next time you come to center, pause. From here, we're back to deer or swan. So this time is with the left leg. To get there, bring that left ankle across the front of your mat. Come onto your right hip, bring that right knee behind the left foot. You can always do a reclining swan. And in any yoga class that you take, you can go into a reclining swan. You don't need the permission of the instructor to take care of your body. From here, you can walk your hands forward. I'm going to take my right leg all the way back. Use your toes to help walk that right leg back. Drop your hip. See how low you can make it. Again, you can use the block underneath that left hip. And when you're ready, you can walk your hands forward. You come down. If you wear that knee, this targets your glutes again. If the pose becomes too easy and you don't feel anything, maybe lift up a little bit and walk your hands and just a little to the right or to the left, just seeing what's happening. Or maybe walk that right knee farther towards the base of your mat. And if that left glute is just fiercely resisting still, tuck a block underneath. Doesn't have to be much support, just enough to know that the glute can't move any further. And that glute will stop resisting because he knows that glute knows that it does not have to protect you when there's other support. Discover the different ways that your body responds to stimulus. That way you can coerce or caress your body to be more healthy. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, bring your hands to the mat and slowly walk them back towards your hips. And when you can, release that left knee back to meet the right. Into table, make some circles with your hips and straighten one leg and then the other. Or you can curl your toes under and lift up and back into down dog. And then carefully return your knees back down to your mat, into table. Now from table, take your right arm out to the side. Inhale that arm up. Thread the needle on your exhale. Right hand behind your left wrist and way off to the left side of your mat, coming all the way down onto your shoulder. Maybe you can feel your shoulder blade being drawn off the side of your chest. You can always straighten out that left leg, coming up on your left toes, stretching your hamstring by pushing your heel away. And then soften into that. Again, on this side, if you'd like, you can always add another stretch to that left shoulder by walking the hand forward, up on spider fingers. And when you find the right place for you, just pause. Let your body realize that you're not going anywhere. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, return your left hand next to your face. Lower your left knee. And then push the floor away. Retrieve your right arm out and up. And come back down to table. Do a couple more cat cows here. Really exaggerate the movement. Next time you come to center pause. From here, walk your knees to one side of your mat. Bring your hips down. And then bring your legs along in front. Come down onto your elbows. And all the way down onto your back. Lift your arms up towards the ceiling. And then let them just drift overhead and down onto the floor and reach towards the wall beyond your head. Push your heels away, your palms away. Stretch your entire backside body. And then stretch your toes away from your fingers. Maybe spread your toes and fingers apart. And return your arms back down next to your hips. Walk your feet up towards your sit bones. Bow your knees into your chest. And rock from left to right. And the next time you come to center, pause there for a moment. Bring your arms out into T. And on your exhale, lower your knees off to the right. Gaze off towards your left fingertips. And if your head needs a little bit more room, you can always move it a little bit to the left. Now, spinal twist here has a lot of different options. And a couple that I really like are modifying where I can feel this in my spine. Most twists are felt primarily in your lumbar spine, your lower spine. And you can see how that feels by moving your knees down toward the front of the mat, not all the way. But the farther down, you can feel the twist closer and closer to your pelvis. And then bringing up your knees a little bit more, and then maybe all the way up to your right arm. You can feel this up in your chest. But select where it feels best for you. Your right arm doesn't have to be on the mat, your right shoulder. But your arm needs to be supported. Your elbow, forearm, and hand. You don't want those being blown around by the wind. You can use a block if your arm is up in the air. And if your knees aren't touching, you can always grab your left knee with your right hand or put a block in between. And then soften your abdomen. Can you feel the stretch from the top of your left shoulder down across your left pecs, all the way down to the top of your pelvis? Begin to deepen your breath. On an inhale, bring your knees back to center. And then lower them over to the right side. And gaze up towards your right hand. And again, you have all those options. The options for this side that you choose may be different because your body is different. Because one side is more flexible and the other side is more muscular. Embrace that change, that difference. Dial the twist into the part of your vertebrae that you'd like. Up by your left arm or your thoracic spine, down towards the lower part of the mat for your lumbar spine. Maybe breathe into where you feel this the most, and then successive breaths going towards other points. And notice the difference your breath makes to your body softening. Soften your glutes. Soften your jaw. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, return your knees to center. Draw them into your chest. Give yourself a squeeze. And you can rock from left to right or make circles on the ceiling with your knees. Maybe really large circles that require your shoulders to leave the mat. That will get different muscles in small circles. And the next time you come to center, pause. From here, release one leg out to the front corner of your mat. Stretch that heel away. And then release the other foot out to the other corner of the mat. Stretch that heel away. Bring your arms however far apart you'd like. But make sure that your shoulder blades are engaged with the mat completely. Stretch your head farther away from your feet. Lift your head an inch, tuck your chin, and lower back down. Take a deep cleansing breath in through your nose. Exhale it out through your nose. And another in through your nose. Exhale it out through your nose. And take rest. As you rest here in Shavasana, watch your breath. Feel your breath. I'll be coming around and adjusting some of you. If you do not want me to touch you, wave me away when you feel my footprints. Begin to deepen your breath. Bring your awareness back into your space. Bring movement to your fingers and to your toes, to your wrists, and to your ankles. Gently roll your head from left to right. And when you're ready, walk your footprints up towards your sit bones, drawing your knees into your chest. Give yourself a squeeze and rock from left to right. The next time you're over towards your right side, pause there for a moment in fetal pose. Scan your body for any residual tension or stress that may still be residing in your tissues. And then using the strength in your left hand, push the floor away, rising up into a seated position. Thank you for sharing your yoga practice with me this afternoon. Practicing in a committed community is really satisfying for me. Thank you for taking such good care of your bodies and your mind and your breath through the practice of yoga. Take your compassion and your empathy and the peace that you practice on your mat with you everywhere you go and share it with your family, your friends, and each person you may meet. Namaste.
Namaste.
My name is Clint, and this has been Yin Yoga. Thanks for coming.